You actually brought that thing home?
It was only $20.
I don't like looking at it.
It's just an old cabinet.
Did you hear that? That came from inside.
Some stories begin with haunted houses. Others begin with abandoned hospitals or forgotten cemeteries. An ordinary wooden box sitting quietly at an estate sale. It wasn't covered in mysterious symbols. It wasn't stained with blood. There was nothing about its appearance that suggested it was different from the countless antiques surrounding it. Yet the moment one man reached for it, someone stopped him with a warning that would change everything. The woman standing nearby wasn't trying to negotiate a higher price or protect a valuable family heirloom. Instead, she looked directly at the old cabinet and quietly pleaded with him not to take it home. According to her, the box had belonged to her grandmother for many years, and throughout her life, she had refused to let anyone open it. The reason wasn't financial or sentimental. She believed something evil was trapped inside. Even after surviving some of the darkest moments in human history, she reportedly feared this small wooden cabinet more than anything else she owned. Most people would have dismissed those words as nothing more than an old family superstition. After all, every antique seems to come with a strange story. Haunted mirrors, cursed paintings, mysterious dolls, legends like these have existed for centuries, passed from one generation to the next. It's easy to laugh at them when they're someone else's story. It's much harder when that story suddenly becomes your own. The man ignored the warning. He bought the cabinet, loaded it into his vehicle, and drove away, believing he had purchased nothing more than an interesting antique. But according to his own account, that single decision marked the beginning of a series of events he would never be able to explain. Strange nightmares, unexplained odors, an overwhelming feeling that he was no longer alone. And as the cabinet changed hands over the years, other owners would later report experiences that sounded disturbingly similar. Was it simply the power of suggestion, a cleverly crafted ghost story that grew with every retelling? Or had an ordinary-looking wooden cabinet become the center of one of the most chilling paranormal mysteries of the modern era? But one question will stay with you until the very end. If someone handed you that box, would you open it? To understand why this ordinary wooden cabinet terrified so many people, we first have to travel back hundreds of years, long before the internet, long before paranormal investigators, and long before anyone had ever heard the words Dybbuk Box. The word Dybbuk comes from Jewish folklore and has been passed down through generations for centuries. According to these ancient stories, a Dybbuk is the restless spirit of a dead person that cannot find peace. Instead of moving on, it is believed to remain trapped between the world of the living and the dead, searching for a place or someone to cling to. Unlike the ghosts we often see in horror movies, a Dybbuk wasn't simply believed to haunt abandoned buildings. Folklore described it as something far more personal, a presence that could follow people, bring suffering, or disturb their lives in ways no one could explain. For centuries, these stories were treated with great seriousness in some Jewish communities. Ancient texts and traditions speak of rabbis performing special prayers and religious rituals to free those who were believed to be under the influence of a Dybbuk. Whether these accounts reflected literal belief, symbolic teachings, or attempts to explain mysterious human behavior remains a matter of faith and interpretation. Modern science has never found evidence that Dybbuks exist, yet the legend has survived for hundreds of years, becoming one of the most enduring supernatural tales in Jewish folklore. Among those legends was another disturbing belief. Some people claimed that a Dybbuk could be confined inside a physical object. Rather than allowing the spirit to wander freely, it was believed that it could be sealed inside a container and kept locked away. Such an object was never meant to be opened. It wasn't considered a treasure to be discovered, but a prison that should remain closed forever. Of course, most people dismiss these stories as nothing more than ancient folklore. As the centuries passed, they became little more than campfire tales. Interesting to read about, but impossible to prove. Very few believed that such an object could still exist in the modern world. Then, in 2001, an antique cabinet appeared at an estate sale in the United States. It looked ordinary. It looked harmless. But according to the family selling it, this was no ordinary cabinet. They believed it was the very prison described in those ancient legends. And despite their desperate warning, someone decided to take it home. The year was 2001. In Portland, Oregon, an antique dealer named Kevin Mannis attended what seemed like a completely ordinary estate sale. For someone in his profession, this was nothing unusual. Estate sales often held forgotten treasures, old furniture, vintage clocks, family photographs, paintings, books, and antiques that had been sitting untouched for decades. Kevin had visited countless sales like this before, always hoping to find something valuable that could be restored and sold. As he walked through the house, one particular item caught his attention. It was a small wooden wine cabinet, no more than a few feet tall. Its dark wood was worn with age, its brass hinges had lost their shine, and its surface carried the marks of time. It didn't look expensive, it didn't look mysterious. In fact, among all the antiques in the room, it appeared surprisingly ordinary. Yet for reasons Kevin couldn't explain, he found himself drawn toward it. Just as he was about to purchase the cabinet, the granddaughter of the woman who had owned the house approached him. Her expression suddenly changed. She wasn't trying to convince him to pay more money, nor was she asking him to leave a family heirloom behind. Instead, she quietly asked him not to buy it. Confused, Kevin asked why. According to his later account, the woman looked at the cabinet for a few moments before explaining that it had belonged to her grandmother, a Jewish Holocaust survivor who had brought it with her after the Second World War. Throughout her life, the elderly woman reportedly refused to let anyone open the cabinet. She believed something dangerous was trapped inside it. According to her family, she often referred to it as a Dybbuk Box and warned that opening it would bring terrible misfortune. The granddaughter admitted that she couldn't prove her grandmother's story was true. She simply knew that the old woman had feared the cabinet for as long as anyone could remember. Even on her deathbed, she reportedly insisted that the box should never be opened and never be kept inside the family home again. For a brief moment, Kevin hesitated. The warning was strange, but he had spent years buying and selling antiques. Almost every old object seemed to come with an unusual story. Haunted mirrors, cursed paintings, mysterious dolls. He had heard them all. To him, this sounded like another piece of family folklore that had grown more dramatic over time. So he smiled, thanked the woman for her concern, paid for the cabinet, and loaded it into his vehicle. As he drove away, he believed he had purchased nothing more than an interesting antique with an unusual backstory. He had no idea that this single decision would soon become the center of one of the most famous paranormal mysteries ever discussed on the internet. Because according to Kevin, the moment the Dybbuk Box entered his life, everything began to change. After bringing the cabinet back to his antique store, Kevin placed it among dozens of other pieces, waiting to be restored. At first, he gave very little thought to the warning he had received. He had bought countless antiques over the years, many of them accompanied by strange family stories. In his experience, legends made for interesting conversations, but they rarely had anything to do with reality. For the first few hours, everything seemed perfectly normal. Then, according to Kevin's account, the first unsettling incident occurred. One afternoon, while he was away from the shop, an employee was left alone inside the building. When Kevin returned later that day, he found her sitting outside, visibly shaken and refusing to go back in. Through tears, she told him that the lights inside the store had suddenly gone out. Moments later, she heard heavy footsteps moving through the building, even though she knew she was completely alone. Then came a loud crash from the room where the cabinet had been placed. Thinking someone had broken into the shop, she ran toward the sound. But when she reached the room, there was no one there. The cabinet hadn't moved. Nothing had been stolen. Every door and window remained locked. Yet she insisted that someone or something had been inside with her. No matter how much Kevin tried to reassure her, she reportedly refused to ever enter the antique shop again. Kevin searched the building himself, but found nothing unusual. Old buildings make strange noises, electrical systems fail, and fear has a way of making ordinary events seem extraordinary. But over the following days, he claimed stranger things began to happen. An unpleasant smell would suddenly appear inside the shop without warning. Kevin described it as a mixture of decaying wood, dampness, and something resembling cat urine. It would linger for a few minutes before disappearing completely. He checked for dead animals, leaking pipes, mold, and every other possible cause. But according to him, nothing explained where the odor was coming from. Then the disturbances followed him home. After bringing the cabinet into his house, Kevin later claimed he began experiencing vivid nightmares unlike anything he had ever known. Night after night, he dreamed of a terrifying elderly woman whose face was twisted with rage. She never spoke. She simply stared at him before violently attacking. Every dream ended the same way, with Kevin waking up suddenly, soaked in sweat, convinced that someone had been standing beside his bed only moments before. At first, he kept these experiences to himself. But the situation became even more disturbing when members of his own family reportedly described having frightening dreams of their own. Although the details varied, several later claimed that an unknown elderly woman appeared in their nightmares. Some also described waking in the middle of the night with the overwhelming feeling that they were being watched by an unseen presence. Whether these experiences were connected, influenced by suggestion, or simply an extraordinary coincidence remains impossible to prove. But for Kevin, the similarities were difficult to ignore. The cabinet that had once seemed like an ordinary antique now filled him with a growing sense of unease. Eventually, he reached a decision. Whatever the truth behind the strange events, he no longer wanted the box anywhere near his home. So he did what almost anyone would do. He decided to get rid of it. He had no way of knowing that the story of the Dybbuk Box was only just beginning. Determined to put the experience behind him, Kevin decided to sell the cabinet. He believed that once it was gone, the nightmares and unexplained events would finally come to an end. But before listing it for sale, he did something that would change the fate of the Dybbuk Box forever. He wrote down everything. In an unusually detailed description, Kevin recounted the story of the estate sale, the warning from the previous owner's family, the strange incidents inside his antique shop, the recurring nightmares, and the unsettling experiences he claimed had followed him after bringing the cabinet home. He ended the listing with a warning to anyone thinking about buying it, making it clear that he believed the box had brought nothing but fear and misfortune into his life. The listing appeared on eBay. Within days, it began attracting thousands of views. People weren't just interested in buying an old cabinet anymore. They were fascinated by its story. Internet forums, paranormal websites, and blogs quickly picked up the listing. Some readers believed every word, arguing that Kevin had nothing to gain by sharing such a bizarre experience. Others dismissed the entire account as a brilliant piece of storytelling designed to make an ordinary antique sell for far more than it was worth. But the debate only made the story spread faster. Soon, the Dybbuk Box wasn't just an item for sale. It had become one of the internet's first viral paranormal legends. The cabinet eventually found a new owner, and according to later reports, the strange stories didn't stop there. Over the years, several people who claimed to possess the box described experiences they believed were connected to it. Some reported recurring nightmares. Others spoke of unexplained anxiety, mysterious odors, sudden illnesses, or an overwhelming feeling that they were not alone. While none of these claims could be independently verified, they added another layer to the growing legend. As more people shared their experiences online, the mystery seemed to take on a life of its own. Millions of readers discovered the story, and countless discussions began asking the same question. Could an ordinary wooden cabinet really be cursed, or were people simply seeing what they expected to see. Psychologists offered one explanation. When someone is told that an object is haunted, even ordinary events, a bad dream, a strange noise in the night, or a flickering light, can suddenly feel deeply significant. Our minds naturally search for patterns, especially when fear is involved. Yet for many readers, that explanation wasn't enough. The similarities between the stories, whether real, imagined, or influenced by suggestion, kept the mystery alive. Every new article, every online discussion, and every retelling drew more people into the legend. The Dybbuk Box was no longer just an antique cabinet. It had become one of the most famous haunted objects on the internet, and before long, its reputation grew so large that Hollywood came knocking. By the time the story of the Dybbuk Box had spread across the internet, it had become far more than an unusual eBay listing. Millions of people had read about it. Paranormal investigators debated it. Skeptics tried to explain it. Believers pointed to it as proof that some objects might carry a darkness beyond human understanding. It was only a matter of time before Hollywood became interested. In 2012, the supernatural horror film The Possession was released. The movie was inspired by the legend of the Dybbuk Box, but it was never intended to be a documentary. The filmmakers borrowed the central idea of an antique box believed to contain a malevolent spirit and transformed it into a fictional horror story. The film introduced millions of people to the word Dybbuk, and almost overnight, public curiosity about the real cabinet exploded. People searched for the original eBay listing. They read Kevin Mannis's account, watched documentaries, and explored countless videos discussing the mystery. For many viewers, the question was no longer whether the movie was frightening. It was whether the real story behind it could possibly be true. As the legend grew, researchers began looking more closely at its origins. One detail surprised many people. Years after the story became famous, Kevin Mannis acknowledged in interviews that parts of the original narrative had been fictionalized. According to him, he had created aspects of the story to make the listing more compelling. That revelation led many skeptics to conclude that the Dybbuk Box was not evidence of the supernatural, but one of the most successful paranormal stories ever told on the internet. For some people, that admission settled the mystery completely. Case closed. An ordinary antique, a powerful story, nothing more. But not everyone agreed. Supporters of the legend pointed out that while parts of Kevin's account may have been embellished, the folklore surrounding Dybbuks is genuine and has existed for centuries. They argued that ancient beliefs cannot simply be dismissed because one modern storyteller admitted to dramatizing his experience. Others questioned whether every strange report from later owners could be explained away by imagination alone. And that's where the mystery becomes so fascinating. On one side, there is no scientific evidence that a Dybbuk has ever been trapped inside a wooden cabinet. No laboratory has detected anything supernatural. No investigation has produced verifiable proof that the box possesses paranormal powers. On the other side, there is a story that refuses to disappear. More than 20 years after it first appeared online, people are still discussing it, investigating it, and debating it. New videos continue to appear. Podcasts revisit the legend. Paranormal enthusiasts search for answers while skeptics continue searching for flaws in the story. Perhaps the Dybbuk Box isn't famous because anyone proved it was haunted. Perhaps it's famous because nobody has ever completely erased the mystery surrounding it. And sometimes, the most terrifying stories aren't the ones we can prove. They're the ones that leave just enough doubt for our imagination to take over. So after everything you've heard, one final question remains. Today, the Dybbuk Box remains one of the world's most famous allegedly haunted objects. Whether you believe it is nothing more than an old wooden cabinet or something far more sinister depends entirely on where you stand. There is no verified scientific evidence that the box contains a supernatural entity, and many researchers believe its reputation grew through storytelling, media attention, and the power of suggestion. Yet despite all of that, the legend refuses to fade. Perhaps that's because the Dybbuk Box represents something deeper than a ghost story. It reminds us that fear doesn't always come from what we can see. Sometimes fear comes from uncertainty. An ordinary object becomes terrifying, not because of how it looks, but because of the story attached to it. Once that story enters our minds, every creak in the floor, every strange dream, and every unexplained coincidence begins to feel meaningful. Over the years, countless haunted objects have been displayed in museums, featured in television shows, and investigated by paranormal researchers. Most are eventually forgotten, but somehow the Dybbuk Box continues to capture people's imagination. Decades after an online auction first introduced it to the world, millions are still asking the same question: what if? And maybe that's why this story has survived. Not because anyone proved the legend was true, but because no one has been able to make people stop wondering. So now imagine this. You're walking through an old antique shop. In the corner sits a worn wooden cabinet. The owner quietly tells you that generations of people believed something dangerous was sealed inside it. He offers it to you for almost nothing. No cameras, no audience, no one else is watching. Would you buy it, or would you leave it exactly where it is? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the world's darkest mysteries, forgotten legends, and unexplained true stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because our next mystery may be even more disturbing than this one.